Every piece of the landscape, both externally and internally, is altered. It was strange, you know, when I got the pilot script, my first thought was, wow, is this gonna work? A show about a serial killer who's sort of the central character who we're meant to identify with, et cetera, et cetera. And when I would tell people about what I was up to, you know, they would kind of say, oh, good luck with that. I thought the show would maybe attract a sort of niche audience, that it was as broadly popular or appealing as it was a bit of a surprise.
Everyone else would probably thank me if they knew I was the one who drained him of his life.
Good job in there, Dex. You sliced him up good.
In fact, deep down, I'm pretty sure they'd appreciate a lot of my work.
Meeting strangers and having them ask if I would pretend I was killing them. And I've signed a lot of knives. I've stopped doing that, in part because I worry that somebody will, you know, commit a crime. And can you get in trouble if you sign the murder weapon? Yeah, I think the unanswered questions and loose ends that we left and that were understandably confounding for people are a part of what teed this up, you know? I think the finale was confounding for people, mystifying. Dexter didn't say anything at the end. There was no voiceover. I think it was hard for people not to hear from him. And I get that. I mean, I certainly support where Dexter ended up, the idea of taking himself into this self-imposed exile. But I also can appreciate how it was pretty dissatisfying for anyone who was hoping for something definitive or some sense of closure. You know, the fact that maybe a less than savory taste was left in people's mouths was something that bugged me for sure, but it also set the stage for us to answer the question about just what the hell happened to this guy. Well, I mean, I've been in a situation where if I, you know, I'm at a press conference at a film festival or something and somebody asks a question about the possibility of there being more Dexter, and I say, sure, it's possible. The next thing I know, it's all over the internet that we're definitely gonna do another season. And it just never, for whatever reason, felt quite right. Some of it had to do with the idea, some of it had to do with the timing. I think it took, it took what will, in the end, have been almost a decade to have enough space between now and then and have that space create storytelling opportunities that didn't exist until now. And the fact that we were getting the band back together, as it were, you know, so many of the original fundamental creative parts went into making this happen. And it was exciting to feel like everybody felt like we'd come up with a story that was worth telling.
Every day I walk through this world, faking it. Knowing if someone knows who I am, that's it.
As much time has passed since the show ended for the character as has passed in reality, and we're turning the cameras back on and finding out where he is and what he's up to and what kind of life he's managed to carve out for himself, pun intended. This show fictionally takes place in a town in upstate New York called Iron Lake. We're a week away from finishing what will, in the end, be a 119-day shoot with 52 locations in the area. So we've been all over the place. Luckily, the Massachusetts people have allowed us to pretend we're in New York, which I know is probably difficult for some people. Our first day we shot in early February in the middle of the woods. We had been blessed with about a foot of snow the night before, and I think the first thing I shot was literally on a frozen lake. You know, it was like 2 degrees, I think. It was kind of nice for the context to be so completely different. It kind of shook off any sort of confusion about whether or not we were in a new place and whether or not Dexter was in a new place. But I had always hoped that something would sort of come together that felt worth doing, and it did. I think the tone of the show is quite different. Most of the sort of building blocks that create a sense of the show's world have changed. He's surrounded by different people. He's living under a different name. He's living in a tiny rural town in upstate New York instead of Miami. He's no longer working for the police department. And he's been abstaining from killing for nearly a decade. The color palette of the show is different. The aspect ratio in which we film it is different. You know, every piece of the landscape, both externally and internally, is altered. So I think it'll feel informed by and redefined by a completely different context. It's something that was in the works for a long time, so jumping in and starting again was kind of a relief. It's like, okay, let's do this. There's nothing left to do but do it.